Hello students, this is Dr. Dakshayani, Assistant Professor from Department of Zoology, Maharani Science College for Women, Bengaluru. Students, in this session, let us study and understand the evolution of brain in vertebrates under comparative anatomy. The contents as follows: Introduction, Development and Evolution of Brain, Brains of Vertebrate Types. Nervous system. Nervous system is the highly specialized system in vertebrates, and it is formed by the nerve cells called neurons, and they are the distinctive units of nervous tissue. Nervous system plays a vital role in an organism, that is, it responds to external stimuli. It brings coordination among the activities of various parts of the body, and it also serves as center for learning and accumulating memories from past experiences. In vertebrates, nervous system shows three divisions. One is central nervous system, which is composed of brain and spinal cord, and the second is the peripheral nervous system, which is composed of cranial nerves that branch out from the brain, and the spinal nerves that branch from the spinal cord. And the third one is the autonomic nervous system, which is composed of sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. Development of central nervous system. The entire nervous system in vertebrates arises from the ectoderm. During the embryo development, there is an important morphogenetic changes that occur after gastrulation. That is the development of central nervous system. And this central nervous system starts as a simple tubular nerve tube which transforms into brain and spinal cord and their associated structure during the course of development. And these morphogenetic processes are called as neurulation. Let's see how this process takes place. In the slide, the figure 1, it shows the three germ layers formed during gastrula stage, that is outer ectoderm, middle mesoderm and inner endoderm. Follow the figure 2 in the same slide to understand the explanation. In most of the vertebrates, after the completion of gastrulation, the neural cells from the ectoderm of the developing embryo actually separates and become accumulated to form a neural plate. And this neural plate, it is pear-shaped, that is, it is broader at the anterior part and gradually narrows towards the posterior end. Later, this neural plate folds inward to form a neural groove, and this neural groove transforms into a neural tube which sinks from the overlying ectoderm, and at the same time the neural crest cells or the ganglion cells get separated. Later, the anterior part of the neural tube transforms into the brain, whereas the posterior narrow part becomes elongated to form the spinal cord. And the neural crest cells on either side of the neural tube develops into a neuroblast, that is, it forms the nerve fibers. After the formation of neural tube, it undergoes the structural differentiation to form embryonic brain in vertebrates. And this process takes place mainly at three stages. First one is the unequal thickening of the neural tube wall. The second stage is the invaginations and constrictions of the neural tube wall. And the third stage is the formation of foldings in the embryo brain. and it is called as flexure formation. Let us understand this process in detail. Development of brain. This slide shows the different stages of development of brain from the neural tube. Observe the first figure. Immediately after the formation of neural tube, the anterior part of neural tube slightly gets swollen due to the unequal thickening of the neural tube wall. And at this stage, the neural tube is known as the encephalon, and it is regarded as the embryonic brain, where it initially undergoes differential growth all the way. As a result, the embryonic brain acquires two constrictions on the neural tube wall, which actually divides the brain into a series of three primary vesicles. And these primary vesicles are called as the primary cerebral vesicles. And each vesicle is named according to their position. They are anterior prosencephalon, which later forms the forebrain, middle mesencephalon, which forms the midbrain of the brain, and posterior rhombencephalon, which forms the hindbrain. And all these vesicles encloses the cavities. Observe the second figure in the same slide. It shows the first stage of formation of primary vesicles and also the second stage of formation of secondary vesicles. That means in the first stage, the neural tube forms three primary vesicles called prosencephalon, mesencephalon and rhombencephalon. And after the formation of primary vesicles, two secondary vesicles form in the area of prosencephalon, which develops into telencephalon and diencephalon. And in the area of rhombencephalon, two more secondary vesicles develop into metencephalon and myelencephalon. So as a result, in the second stage of embryonic brain development, it shows formation of totally 5 vesicles, that is telencephalon, diencephalon, mesencephalon, metencephalon and myelencephalon, where each one enclosing the cavity inside. Let us understand the detail about the vesicles of brain and its derivatives. As we know that encephalon, which is the anterior end of the neural tube, moves ahead in the anterior posterior axis, dividing the embryonic brain into prosencephalon, mesencephalon and rhombencephalon. Prosencephalon. It forms the forehead of the brain and it is divided into the two secondary vesicles called telencephalon and diencephalon. The anterior wall of the telencephalon is known as the lamina terminalis, which mark the original boundary of the brain. And this telencephalon grows beyond the lamina terminalis and forms a paired cerebral hemispheres, where the roof of the cerebral hemispheres is thin and it is called as the pallium, and the floor of the cerebral hemisphere is formed by the bundle of nerve fibers. It is called as the corpora striata. And each cerebral hemisphere encloses a cavity called lateral ventricles. From the anterior ventral part of the telencephalon, a paired olfactory lobes grows outwardly, and each olfactory lobe encloses a cavity called rhinocele. And these cavities actually communicates with the lateral ventricles which are present in the cerebral hemisphere. Diencephalon is the second part of the prosencephalon, where it is the small part of the forebrain and it is overlapped by the enlarged cerebral hemispheres. Diencephalon is also known as thalamencephalon, and it shows the three regions, that is the dorsal epithalamus, ventral hypothalamus and lateral thalami. The anterior part of the epithalamus, it is actually glandular in nature, where the dorsal surface of the epithalamus consists of non-nervous vascular tissue called as anterior choroid plexus, and this play a major role in secreting the cerebrospinal fluids. And on the dorsal surface, two more dorsal processes called as paraphysis, which actually supports the parietal body, and epiphysis, which actually forms the pineal body. These two processes are formed on the dorsal surface of the diencephalon, and they are the photoreceptors in the lower vertebrates, and they act as a endocrine glands in the higher vertebrates. The ventral hypothalamus of the diencephalon shows the two optic nerves crossing one another, forming a optic chiasma, and this ventral hypothalamus encloses a ventral median invagination which is called as the infundibulum, which supports the pituitary body. The posterior hypothalamus, which also consists of the olfactory mammillary body. The mesencephalon, which is the midbrain of the brain, it is the site of vision as well as hearing. The dorsal surface of the mesencephalon called as the tectum, and the floor of the midbrain is actually formed by the bundle of nerve fibers called as the crura cerebri. The midbrain actually consists of only the two optic lobes. In lower animals, this condition is called as corpora bigemina, whereas in higher vertebrates, there are four lobes present in the midbrain, and the condition is called as corpora quadrigemina. Both the optic lobes encloses a cavity called as optocele. The midbrain is the small part of the brain where it acts as a junction between the forebrain and the hindbrain to relay the or to transmit the nerve impulses between the forebrain and the hindbrain. Metencephalon, where it forms the cerebellum. Cerebellum, where it consists of the bundle of branching fibers of the white matter, which is called as the arbor vitae. The ventral surface of the cerebellum consists of a bundle of nerve fibers, which is called as the pons oroli, which actually connects the lateral walls of the cerebellum. Myelencephalon, it is the second part of the hindbrain, which forms the medulla oblongata, and it is the posterior part of the brain. The dorsal surface of the medulla oblongata consists of the non-nervous vascular tissue, which is called as posterior choroid plexus. This play a vital role in the production of cerebrospinal fluid, and this fluid actually flows in the ventricles of the brain as well as continues in the spaces between the meninges. The floor of the medulla oblongata has the reticular activating inhibiting system, and medulla oblongata continues as the spinal cord in the central nervous system. As the brain vesicles get differentiated, each vesicle of the brain encloses a cavity called the ventricle, and these ventricles are lined with ciliated epithelium called as ependyma, and the ventricles, which are formed in the cerebral hemisphere, are called as the lateral ventricles, and they get connected with the diocele, which is the ventricle of the diencephalon, and these two ventricles are connected by the foramen of Monro, whereas the third ventricle, that is diocele in the diencephalon, it is get connected with the fourth ventricle, which is present in the medulla oblongata, by a connection called as iter or the aqueduct of Sylvius. As a result of the differentiation of brain vesicles, in the brain there are totally 4 ventricles are formed. There are many factors responsible in the brain morphogenesis, that is differential growth and intraventricular pressures, which are regarded to be the important morphogenetic factors in brain development. And as a result of these development, brain vesicles undergoes a kind of bending or the folding, and it is called as the flexure formation. Flexures of the brain. Flexure formation is the third stage of brain development in the vertebrates, where there are 3 flexures formed in the embryonic brain as a result of unequal growth in the different parts of the brain, and these flexures are the foldings that are formed at different regions of the brain. The first flexure appears in the region of the midbrain, as you can notice in the picture, and this first flexure, which is forming at the region of midbrain. It is called as the ventral cephalic flexure. Because of this, the forebrain is bent in a ventral direction around the anterior end of the notochord and the foregut. As a result, the floor of the forebrain comes very close to the hindbrain, and this flexure makes the midbrain most prominent for a short period of time. The second flexure appears at the junction of the hindbrain and the medulla oblongata, and this is called as the cervical flexure, where this bending increases between the third and fifth week of the embryo development, and later it disappears when the hindbrain becomes right angle to the medulla oblongata. The third flexure is called as the pontine flexure, and it is formed at the region of pons orali at later stages of development. Among the three flexures, the cervical and the pontine flexures finally becomes straight, whereas the cephalic flexure remains prominent throughout the development. The slide shows the generalized basic plan of the brain in vertebrates, which remains same in all the vertebrate groups during the embryonic development. Brain shows the primary vesicles getting differentiated into secondary vesicles and their ventricles in the brain. In this slide, table depicts the main subdivisions of the embryonic brain vesicles and their derivatives and ventricles in the brain of adult vertebrates. This slide shows the development of some important associated structures along with the development of brain. Commissures. After the formation of brain, the two halves of the brain is connected by a transverse bundle of nerve fibers, and these bundle of nerve fibers are called as the commissures, and it appears in the most of the vertebrates, and there are only anterior and posterior commissures are present, where the anterior commissure originates in the lamina terminalis of the telencephalon, and it lies in front of the third ventricle and it joins the two corpora striata, whereas the posterior commissure lies in the roof of the diencephalon at its junction with the midbrain. Spinal cord, or it is also called as nerve cord. It is formed from the posterior end of the neural tube just behind the brain during the embryonic development. Spinal cord is the continuation of the medulla oblongata, and it is broader at the anterior end, and posterior end tapers to a fine thread called filum terminale. The nerve cord is somewhat cylindrical in shape and it is dorsoventrally flattened. It encloses a central canal which is the continuation of the fourth ventricle of the brain. Meninges. Both brain and spinal cord are surrounded by a protective connective tissue, and they are in the form of membranes, and these protective membranes are called as the meninges. Between these membranes there is a space in which the cerebrospinal fluid runs from the brain to spinal cord to supply nutrients, and the cerebrospinal fluid, it also acts as a shock absorbent in order to protect the central nervous system. Neural crest. After the formation of the neural tube, some masses of ectodermal cells appear, appear on each side between the neural tube, and these cells are called as the neural crest, which are also known as neuroblast cells, which extend on each side along the whole length of the neural tube. Some of the neural crests form the segmental dorsal root ganglia of the spinal nerves and also the ganglia of the autonomic sympathetic nerves. While some of the neural crest cells form the pia mater and arachnoid membranes of the central nervous system. Brain of vertebrate. From our previous knowledge, we know that the vertebrate brain evolved very early, about 500 million years ago, and since then it remained relatively uniform in its basic organization. Means same basic parts but varying in their relative size. There must be some structural and anatomical differences in the brain of different vertebrates, because the brain of living vertebrates are the reflection of the various habitats occupied by the different species of organisms. Hence, there must be some variation occurring in the brain structures and degree of development in different vertebrates. The major evolutionary changes may be concerned with the specialization, complication, and enlargement, or sometimes reduction of the different brain regions. And there must be some correlation between the size of a particular part of brain and its importance in the function of an animal. Comparative account of brain in vertebrates. In order to understand the structural similarities as well as the differences in relation to brain in different groups of vertebrates, and also to understand their evolutionary significance, comparative account of brain in different vertebrates must be studied in detail, because one of the strongest forms of evidence is the comparative anatomy. That is, comparing structural similarities of organisms to determine their evolutionary relationships. Comparative anatomy is also an important tool that helps to determine evolutionary relationships between the organisms, whether they share common ancestors or not, and also to establish classification of organisms. And today, comparative anatomy can serve as the first line of reasoning in determining the relatedness of species. Let us study and understand in detail about the brain of shark. Brain of shark. In shark, brain is well developed and it is considerably advanced when it is compared to the cyclostomes. Brain of shark is large, it is elongated, flattened, and of whitish in color. The brain is enclosed within a cartilaginous cranium, hence it is called chondrocranium. Brain is covered by a single meninges called meninx primitiva. The brain of shark is simple and it consists of three main parts, that is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Forebrain. The forebrain comprises the olfactory lobes, cerebrum and the diencephalon. In shark, the olfactory lobes are large, bilobed and well developed. They are anterolaterally connected to the cerebral hemispheres by a stalk called olfactory peduncles, and lobes are provided with the large olfactory sacs. Olfactory lobes are concerned with the sense of smell, where in shark the sense of smell is evidently highly developed. Olfactory lobe encloses a spacious cavity called rhinocele. Cerebrum. The cerebrum forms the anterior part of the brain and it is an undivided mass of nervous tissue. In shark, the cerebrum is quite large and it is smooth surfaced. Cerebrum is not divided into cerebral hemispheres by a median longitudinal groove in shark. The roof of the cerebrum is very thin and it is poorly developed in shark, and it is called the pallium. The floor of the cerebral hemisphere is also a thin and it is called as corpora striata. This corpora striata internally meets at the midline where it divides the original median ventricle of the cerebrum into a paired ventricles called as lateral ventricles or the paracele. The dorsal surface of the cerebrum is quite smooth, but on its ventral side there is a small aperture called the neuropore, through which a pair of delicate nerves called the terminal or pre-olfactory nerves comes out. Diencephalon. It is the posterior part of the cerebrum and it is extremely short and is completely overlapped by the cerebellum. The dorsal surface of the diencephalon gives rise to a pineal body with pineal stalk. The ventral surface of the diencephalon gives rise to the infundibulum, which supports the hypophysis or the pituitary body. And a pair of inferior lobes and a thin saccus vasculosus is also present on either side of the infundibulum. The saccus vasculosus are the structures which are sensory receptors, and it is present only in the aquatic animals where it helps in the detection of water pressure. Just in front of the infundibulum, the two optic nerves crosses, forming the optic chiasma. Diencephalon encloses a cavity called the diocele. The roof of the diencephalon is extremely thin, and this membrane is composed of non-nervous vascular tissue, and it is called as anterior choroid plexus. This anterior choroid plexus plays a major role in production of cerebrospinal fluid. Midbrain. Midbrain is the short part of brain and it forms the junction between the forebrain and the hindbrain, where it acts as a relay junction to transmit the nerve impulses between the diencephalon and hindbrain. The midbrain consists of only two optic lobes, and this condition is called as corpora bigemina, where it controls the vision. The optic lobes are rounded swellings and are almost dorsally covered by the cerebellum and ventrally by the infundibular outgrowths. Optic lobes encloses the cavity called optocele. The floor of the midbrain is thin and poorly developed in shark, and it is called as the crura cerebri, where it is the bundle of nerve fibers which transmits the nerve impulses between the diencephalon and the hindbrain. Hindbrain. The hindbrain comprises the cerebellum and the medulla oblongata. Cerebellum. In shark, the cerebellum is large, elongated, and well developed. It overlaps the optic lobes in front and part of medulla oblongata behind. The dorsal surface of the cerebellum possesses numerous irregular convolutions, and two deep transverse furrows divides the cerebellum into three lobes, and a median longitudinal furrow divides the cerebellum into right and left halves. Cerebellum encloses a large cavity called epicele. In shark, the sensory fibers from the sense organs like ear and eye enter into the cerebellum, and these carry nerve impulses from the lateral line system. And this lateral line system present only in aquatic animals. In shark, the pons orally is absent. The pons orally is the bundle of nerve fibers on the lateral sides of the cerebellum which connects the ventral side of the cerebellum, and it is absent in sharks. In shark, the cerebellum is very well developed and it plays a major role in maintaining the body equilibrium, as well as it brings the good coordination among the muscular movements. Medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is almost triangular in shape and it forms the posterior part of the brain. The posterior narrow part of the medulla oblongata continues as the spinal cord behind. On the anterior lateral side of the medulla oblongata, a pair of hollow outgrowths arises and it is called as corpora restiformia. They are slightly overlapped by the cerebellum. The corpora striata, that is restiformia, are the organs of balance and it is found only in the aquatic animals. The floor and sides of the medulla oblongata are thick, but the roof is extremely thin and it is made up of non-nervous vascular tissue called the posterior choroid plexus. This posterior choroid plexus plays a major role in the production of cerebrospinal fluid. The 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th cranial nerves arises from the medulla oblongata, where the medulla oblongata controls the branchial respiration as well as the cardiovascular activities. Medulla oblongata encloses the fourth ventricle called as myelocele, and it continues behind with the central canal of the spinal cord. The cavities of the brain, that is ventricles. Vertical and horizontal longitudinal section of the brain, it shows the various ventricles or the cavities of the brain. In shark, all the four ventricles are present. The cavity of each olfactory lobe is known as the rhinocele, which communicates with the lateral ventricles of the cerebrum behind. The lateral ventricles are the paracels, opens into the large third ventricle, that is diocele of the diencephalon, through a connection called as foramen of Monro. The cavity of the third ventricle extends into the infundibulum of the pituitary body, and also it opens into the base of the pineal stalk. Optic lobes possess the cavity called optocele. The cavity of the cerebellum opens into the fourth ventricle in the medulla oblongata. The third and the fourth ventricles are interconnected by a connection called as the iter or the aqueduct sylvial. The fourth ventricle, which is present in the medulla oblongata, is continuous behind into the central canal of the spinal cord. Spinal cord. Spinal cord is the continuation of the medulla oblongata of the brain, and it extends to the end of the tail, and it is protected within the neural canal of vertebrae. Spinal cord encloses the central canal. In shark, there are 10 pairs of cranial nerves arises from the brain. To summarize, brain of shark is large, tubular and well developed. It shows the large olfactory lobes which are highly developed and shows the good sense of smell. Cerebrum is large, smooth but not well developed, and it is not divided into cerebral hemispheres. Pineal and parietal body is reduced in shark, where it shows no glandular function. Saccus vasculosus are present since shark is an aquatic animal, need to detect the water pressure. In shark, cerebellum is large, well developed, and this well development shows the good maintenance of body equilibrium and good coordination of muscular activities. Restiforme body is present, and it is the organ of maintenance of balance of the body. In shark, all the four ventricles are present, and brain shows 4 pairs of cranial nerves. For a short recap of the session, let us answer few multiple choice questions. In vertebrates, the entire central nervous system is originated from ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm, or none of these. Answer is A. In vertebrates, the entire central nervous system is originated from the ectoderm. During embryonic brain development, the neural tube differentiates into primary vesicles, secondary vesicles. Are both primary and secondary vesicles? None of these. Answer is C. During embryonic brain development, neural tube differentiates into both primary as well as secondary vesicles. In shark, brain is enclosed in bony cranium, chondrocranium, muscular structure, or none of these. Answer is B. In shark, brain is enclosed in cartilaginous cranium, hence it is called chondrocranium. In brain, the cerebrospinal fluid is secreted by anterior choroid plexus, posterior choroid plexus, are both anterior and posterior choroid plexus or the crura cerebri? The answer is C. In brain, the cerebrospinal fluid is secreted by the both anterior choroid plexus as well as the posterior choroid plexus. How many pairs of cranial nerves found in shark brain? Is it 8 pairs, 12 pairs, 5 pairs or the 10 pairs? The answer is D. There are 10 pairs of cranial nerves emerges from the shark brain. These are the few references from the books as well as from the website. Thank you.